The next morning, the kingdom gathered at the sacred grove of Udene, where judgment was passed. The gods demand cleansing. One shall burn, one shall be cast into the forest. Nenaya, bound in palm fronds, was led to the firewood stacked high. But before the flame could be lit, Queen Amaka took off her royal beads and ran forward. If she burns, so do I. No! The king shouted, but she was already in the fire. Nenaya screamed. The flame swallowed them both. In the heart of the lush kingdom of Njikoka, where the sun painted golden paths on the red earth and the wind carried the voices of the ancestors, ruled Queen Amaka, the jewel of our people. The kingdom pulsed with life, drummers by the riverbanks, market women shouting prices over baskets of yam, and warriors sharpening spears under palm trees. Queen Amaka was not merely the king's consort, she was a ruler in her own right. When King Ezudo traveled for counsel, it was Amaka who presided over the royal court. Her judgment was swift and fair, her gaze as piercing as the eagle's. They called her Ugommiri, eagle of the waters, for she was graceful but never afraid to strike. The queen's private quarters were the most sacred in the palace. Only trusted attendants could cross the threshold, and among them was Nenaya, a quiet maiden whose feet made no sound and whose eyes held rivers of thoughts. Choosing at 14 to serve the queen, Nenaya learned quickly how to fold coral-lexed wrappers, how to blend herbs for scent, and how to read the mood of her mistress with a glance. Amaka could see herself through Nenaya, smart and strong, for she was brought to marry the king at a very young age. For the early days she stayed in the palace, she was sad and lonely. There was no form of affection from the king. Her family abandoned her in the hands of the royal family, and she felt trapped. She underwent training on battles and conflict resolution. As a fast learner, she adapted easily. Then, after a few years, Nenaya came into the palace. Nenaya was the only one who would listen to her, console her, and encourage her to become stronger. With time, she became fearless and tough. That was when King Ezudo started loving her and saw her fit as a queen, for he was strict and fierce. Soon, she started representing the king. Being alone in the palace, Amaka became friends with Nenaya. Their bond grew beyond mistress and servant. What began as shy smiles over woven mats turned into deep conversations under the moon. Over time, words melted into touches, and touches into fire, secrets. Hungry fire that danced between them in the silence of night. One moonless night, when the palace was wrapped in darkness and only the rustling of leaves spoke, Queen Amaka led Nenaya to the sacred pond behind the royal gardens. Do you believe the ancestors would curse us? Amaka asked, their hands entwined. I believe they know love, even if the living do not, Nenaya whispered, kissing her palm. The pond, used for fertility rites, had never felt such longing ripple through it. That night, they made a silent pact. If ever the truth were to come out, they would face it together. Unknown to them, Adobe, another maiden, had watched them from the shadows. Adobe had once confessed her heart to Nenaya when she was turned down gently. Humiliation brewed in her soul. She told no one of her heartbreak. Instead, she watched, waited, and when she saw what had grown between the queen and Nenaya, her pain turned to envy, and envy to vengeance. Meanwhile, in King Ezudo's absence, whispers crept through the palace walls. Chiefs grew restless. Some thought the queen was becoming too powerful. She consults the gods more than the king does, one said. She listens to the cries of commoners, That is not the way of royals, mortal than other. When King Ezudo returned from his diplomatic journey to the western frontier, Adobe was waiting. My king, she said, bowing deeply. Forgive me, but I must speak. Our land bleeds with sin. She told him everything. That night, Queen Amaka sat on her throne of ivory and brass, unaware of the storm coming. She was hearing a land dispute when the royal guards stormed in. My queen, one said, you are summoned. She rose, regal as ever, and followed them to the king's hall. King Ezudo stood by the ancestral staff. The council of elders, the high priest, and the oracle of Arodi were all present. A silence louder than drums filled the air. Nenaya, daughter of Okeke, the chief priest began. You are charged with seducing our queen and leading her astray from the path of womanhood. Gasps filled the room. Queen Amaka stepped forward. She led no one astray. It was I who loved her. The king's voice cracked. Why would you shame me this way, Amaka? Because my heart was never yours, Ezudo. It was promised elsewhere, even before you started loving me. The oracle began to chant, his eyes rolling. The land bleeds! The land bleeds! The fire must purify. The next morning, the kingdom gathered at the sacred grove of Udene, where judgment was passed. Drums beat slowly, women wailed, men spat in disgust. The gods demand cleansing, the priest bellowed. One shall burn, one shall be cast into the forest, nameless. Nenaya, bound in palm fronds, was led to the firewood stacked high. But before the flame could be lit, Queen Amaka took off her royal beads and ran forward. If she burns, she said, her voice thunderous, so do I. No, the king shouted, but she was already in the fire. Nenaya screamed, the flame swallowed them both. The heavens raged, rain poured like morning. The palace grounds shook. For weeks, the palace was silent. No music, no laughter. Crops near the palace withered. The royal garden lost its scent. The people whispered of curses and spirits. Children dreamed of a queen with flames in her eyes and a maiden made of smoke. Women claimed they saw two butterflies, one silver, one black, dancing among the withered flowers, returning each year during the rainy season. Some said it was love, others said it was a warning. Adobe could not sleep. She saw Nenaya in every corner, heard Queen Amaka's voice in the rain. One night, she wandered to the fire pit where they died. She collapsed there, sobbing. I didn't mean for her to burn, only to leave the palace. No one saw her again after that night. Some say she walked into the forest and never came back. Others said the spirits claimed her for balance. To this day, the ruins of Queen Amaka's garden remained untouched. Even during the great drought, a single hibiscus blooms there, red as flame, soft as skin. Women say when the wind is right, you can hear whispers in the banana leaves, lovers' whispers, ancient ones. And sometimes two butterflies, one silver, one black.